Hello, y'all. I hope y'all been tapped in each week because these conversations are truly only getting better and better. Am I right, Dani?
They sure are. I'm so excited. I feel like I say this all the time. I'm excited for the conversations, but we just keep having like these dynamic, amazing people on that sometimes I can't even believe they're like on our podcast. So I am excited.
Yeah, like it's crazy because many people know them as one way, like with what they're titled, what they do. But then when we get on the podcast, it's like a conversation into, we may, tap on to what they do, but it's the breadth of who they are as people that really and truly makes every single conversation just dope as fuck. I mean, just dope AF. I cannot move past the fact that I am not only truly grateful for every single person that we've had on here, but today's conversation is one of my favorites. Not just because I'm an international speaker, but today's guest, she has graced the stages of some of the largest platforms. And if there is one thing that I personally, she doesn't know it, but she's going to find out today, I call her the Energizer Bunny because she has more energy than anyone I have ever met. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little jealous of it because, I need naps and I just, I don't even know where to tap into that level of energy. Not jealous in a bad way, jealous in like a dang. Where can I buy it? Is it bottled up somewhere? So before I tell you who it is, I want to, or give you even more hints, I want to introduce and bring onto the show KJ Rose. She is an artist development and performance director and an author of one of the dopest books called The Rose Effect, 8 Steps to Delivering the Performance of Your Life. And I want us to all welcome KJ. How are you?
Good morning. I am good. I am excited. I am good. This is full circle moment for us and just a new exciting moment for me and Dani. So I'm just like,
yes.
Yes, it's crazy because we met in Australia, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we met in Australia. That was such an interesting trip.
And then reconnected in Morocco.
Yes, reconnected in Morocco.
Wow, what are the chances?
That was crazy. And then connected again in New Orleans. And it's like, okay, it's up and it's stuck. Like, all right, clearly.
The universe is like, y'all need to come together.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Because we didn't tell each other we were going to be in either place. It was just
okay.
Yo, what? I mean, of course, we didn't know each other before Australia, so we didn't know to tell each other.
Right.
But then in Morocco, and it was like, wait, what are you doing here? And then in New Orleans, it was like, wait, what's up?
Yes. And I just happened into a building. I don't even know, was I coming to something? I think I was waiting on a taxi. So like I was on my way out when I bumped into you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's literally been like a kind of like the universe, like, hey, I know y'all are busy, but hey.
A little serendipity in there.
Yes, like a continual like serendipitous moment, like, and we back.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, so good.
But no, it's so crazy because like I was saying before, I love how much energy you have because what I've noticed, especially in a few of these phases of my life, is my energy levels are nowhere near where they used to be. Like I remember in my 20s, like, oh man, I had a club for every night. I, would be able to go to the club, go to that 8 a.m. class and catch me a good church service at least twice a week.
Right.
Now, if I'm out past 11 on a school night, I'm like, ooh, I'm down for 2 days.
So good. I know.
But it's
I think I was born with it. I think that over the years, it took me some time to embrace it. I didn't know it was a force. My mom was a cheerleading coach. And as much as she's like, I don't know where you get this from, I'm like, it's you, and she's definitely more conservative but it started with her and the enthusiasm and the vigor and just all the things that came with working with cheerleaders. I just kind of like, it penetrated me and my spirit. And so as much as she's like, I have no idea where you came from, like I identify her as the host. She is, yeah, she's the host. And so, it took me some time because I would be in spaces where maybe people didn't understand it. It was too loud for them. It was too much for them. Why do you have to do it like that? Why does it? And it would always cause me to just kind of like maybe move in a different direction or make a shift, to make other people feel comfortable. Even performing sometimes as a background singer, it's like I've heard you're doing too much. And then it took me a while to discover that I was just in the wrong place because that same too much was just enough for the next person, And so where my default going into the next job was like, well, let me stand back here. Then the manager is like, no, come up, do what you do. And so I was like, okay, so I need to be in spaces that serve me and that serve my spirit, and not in the spaces where I feel like I am being smaller or that I have to diminish or feel defeated in any way. And so I started then making the choices to remove myself from spaces that couldn't see me, because it's like, if somebody gonna lose, it ain't gonna be me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna lose being in a space that can't see me and that, they're still working on their own stuff, right? And maybe they need to pull up. And so like I take the L if I stay in that space, and so I'm gonna always keep shooting to be in spaces and around people that even if they don't understand it, they ain't gonna stop me from it.
Oh, I love that. That's like the definition of going where you're celebrated, not tolerated. Yeah. And I definitely can relate to that feeling. And I know, Alechia, we talk about you having that feeling where you were told you were too much as a child. And me having similar experiences where you kind of feel like you have to shrink and like dim your light to make other people feel comfortable. And you're the only person that ends up miserable. You're the only person that feels that sense of shrinking and smaller. And you're just like, okay, well, let me not do too much. Let me not wear this around this group of friends. So they gonna think I'm bougie. They gonna think I'm this. And then you just start to get so removed from who you really are in an effort to try to make other people happy. And it's just like, one day you're just like, okay, this is not who I am. And then you go around another set of people and they're like, oh, let me get it. You are everything. Like, I love it. And you're like, hold on. Yeah. It's such a journey. I've definitely experienced that. So I love that you said that. I got chills. I was like, wow, that is so true. When you start to surround yourself with the right people, it's like you're just able to be exactly who you are. It's so important to find your tribe.
Yeah. Yes. And remembering that you're the constant.
Yes.
The circumstances will always shift, but you are the constant, and there are people, even just in whatever your respective gifts are, there are moments where you're just like, ooh, okay, I don't do it like that. Or maybe I'm not garnering the results that I'd like to. This person is. There's someone very specific connected to your gift. Like their blessing is based on you being exactly who you are. So they can do exactly what they're supposed to get. And the minute you deviate from that, then you done messed up the whole plan. God's whole plan. You done messed it up. So once I realized that it's bigger than me, that, I was born with this thing, I started, being able to frame it. And I'd be like, okay, well, I think I'm the energy purveyor. Okay, I'm the spark. And then once you really get into that, and I'm like, okay, I change kinetic energy into potential energy, and it transcends disciplines. It works for, the traditional artists. It works for the executives. It works for the mom. It works for the doctor. It works for the nurse, whatever that may be. I realized that was going to be the force in which I could actually make a living from. I didn't know it at the time, but it was like, and the part of my life that was about me being like a vocal artist, like that was never in vain, even though at the time I just didn't understand it. And when God said, I need you to shift, and now I need you to take everything that you have that you have kind of taken in over the years that you've experienced, and now I need you to pour into other people. And I was like, well, that wasn't the plan.
It's not what we're doing.
Right. And then you get so comfortable in the feeling of the struggle of something that the mere thought of welcoming a new direction for the offer, the simple offering of a victory or success, you're not used to that. It's kind of like when I think they showed certain animals like being in a cage for so long that you just become conditioned. You're conditioned to you're conditioned to not having the freedom, that when they open the gate wide open, you're like, oh, no, I know what this is. But
it's a trap.
Right.
Yeah. They don't even have to lock it anymore because you imprison yourself. You show up to the prison for yourself, ready with your own lock and key, like, all right, reporting for duty.
Put me under. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so crazy that you say that, because you'll always have people who are outside of you and you said it in the beginning, where they feel like you're too much or you're whatever it is. And so it's like, how do you deal with those people who find you intimidating because of their lack of confidence? Like, yes, it's, well, I'm not going to take the L because of you, but like, what does dealing with it look like? Does it mean completely removing yourself? Are you trying to have a conversation? Like, what's that?
As of late, I think, first of all, it was understanding it and identifying it, because once you are clear on what it is, then you don't have to move in the emotion of it, right? Like, you've done the work, and then once I did that work, it allowed me to let other people off the hook. Like, it didn't take away from me. It was like, I see you and I understand it, but let me just tell you, I'm here to help. So it became me disarming people, saying, hey, I love what you do, and I don't do it like you, so I honor and respect the way you do it. I'm not here for your job. My energy is not to say that I'm trying to take over and have my spirit abound, by making you feel like there's nothing here for you to do, but I'm going to always be me, and I'm giving you permission to be you.
Yeah. And you know that there are people that no matter how hard you try to do that, they're still just going to want to look at you and perceive you the way that they want to. It doesn't matter how much you show your belly, like your underbelly, like when a dog is kind of surrendering and they're like, hey, I just want to play with you. I'm not going to bite. Right. They're still like, no, I don't know. You might flip over and bite me. You might be here, And sometimes I think that there's this idea where people confuse confidence and arrogance. And I'm sure you've come across that. It's like, when people are just stubborn and they insist and they just refuse to kind of see something for what it is, they just want to kind of project and do their own thing with it. What do you do with that when people are just very determined to kind of paint you in a negative light based on how well you kind of walk in your confidence?
Yeah, I go to God and I just pray that, because I think I am, I've found myself as an empath in a lot of situations, and I feel that, and I ask God to give me the armor that does not derail me from the assignment that I'm on, and sometimes I pray that their heart becomes softened. And then, it's just, and I just got to keep moving, and how I do it in the, KJ, Kiana, Kiki sense is like, they don't know what they don't know. You can't blame them. They don't know what they don't know. Their own foresight, is not enough to see me. And they can't see themselves, right? They haven't even reached a level where they see themselves, because once you're truly accepting of you, it makes you accepting of other people. Yeah. And so it's like, so it's a combination of God, of just going on and just summing the situation up by saying, like, they don't know me well enough for me to take this personally. They don't know me. Why would I take this personally? And it's hard. It is a choice. Confidence, I always say, is a choice every day to activate the best parts of yourself.
Ooh.
So it's like, okay. So I'm like, I'm going to confidently move over here because I know what they say or what they think ain't my truth. That's theirs.
Yeah.
you know? And so, but I'm not saying that that happens overnight. I'm just saying that it is the repetition of that can be helpful, putting that in place and knowing, you talked about arrogance, and I always say that I am not abased nor bound anyone. I don't think I'm above or beneath, and it just keeps me, it keeps me centered, and I'm always like, I'm not here to say that I'm better than you, but I'm not beneath you either.
Yeah. I'm just different.
I'm different, and you are here to make a deposit that nobody else can make. I'm here to make a deposit that nobody else can make. And so I am not going to stop you from that. And I'm not going to hate you for that. And that's just once I realize, and then it takes me back to the most layman, simplest of terms. They don't know what they don't know. And it's okay.
They don't know what they don't know. Listen, take notes, sis. Take notes. That's that meme. Walk into the room like God sent you there, because they don't know what they don't know. Be exactly who you are. Oh, listen. The conversation already is just, I'm sitting up here taking notes, mental ones. So for those who are listening, y'all should maybe take physical notes at her so she knows it's real when y'all quote some of these good gems. But now, you exude confidence now, but for so many, like, it can be elusive. And you even spoke to it when you were saying confidence is something that you choose daily. Kind of like a shower, you should take it daily in order for it to stick. It won't really work if you took it 4 days ago. It don't really work, on day 4 of non-showering. You kind of got to do it every day. But for you overcame like debilitating stage fright. And it's so crazy, especially people who have such vibrant spirits, because you can literally feel your spirit through the screen. It's so vibrant. And to know that you used to have stage fright, like, how did you hone in, tap in, and then embrace like the confident you? Like, what was that journey like?
Yeah, what was that process?
For me, it was as a singer. I was great with like groups and community and the chorale and but the minute I had to go and stand on my own and speak or sing, it was like the toughest time ever. And so I realized that my body was having an adverse reaction to what I believed my lot was, that this was what I was put here to do. And first I had to believe that was my lot, right? I had to believe that this was what God had assigned me to, in order to begin the work of pushing through it, and I had to stop looking at the people that it appeared like they were born with it. So this must be what they were put here to do. And then I had to stop saying, since I wasn't born with it, maybe I wasn't put here to do it, and so it meant that I had to work on it. And there were other things I was born with, other tools that actually I could harness to help me like work through it. So it was like, it's all the mental stuff first, replacing the negative thoughts with, the positive ones. And I think I just saw a video with Diana Ross that said, for every negative, thought of my being, of myself, I had to quickly replace it with one that was empowering and that was elevating. And so it starts there, right? Because I think by the time we see the external expression, it's really about the reconciliation of the internal narrative. It's really what you think about yourself first, right? So the process was happening in tandem. It wasn't like I was, saying, I got to get my confidence up, so I'm not going to do shows. In order to get my confidence up, I had to keep doing shows. It was, it was, the more I got in the mirror and I rehearsed, the more I could see what it was, that I could identify the areas that I could pull up in and just, really kind of spend a little bit more time just building, so that when I got in front of an audience, it wasn't that I was waiting for their response or their validation or wondering what they thought about me based on how they responded. Right? Because if that's it, then I was always going to have this lack of confidence, but I had to build it on my own in a room, solo, looking at the mirror, assessing the assets I know I had, and focusing on those so that when I got in front of the audience, I didn't spend my entire first to 5 songs figuring out what they thought. Right? I knew what it was. I knew what it looked like. I knew how it felt because I had done the work. So by the time I get in front of you, if it's for you, you'll receive it. But I'm not going to spend the time wondering, if you get it. Because I remember like I would try to do every like note because I saw in the first row, like people just seemed unbothered. So I was like, well, let me just try to do something to get their attention, to gain, their focus. And they just didn't move. And I was like, damn. Okay. But by the time it was over, I couldn't tell you what I did. I couldn't tell you if I was in it. There was no presence in it. But then those same people came and said, you were amazing. So I realized that people receive and interpret differently.
Yeah.
So when you spend your time trying to impress and trying to do everything, they're receiving and they're processing in their own way. So you need to process and deliver in your own way.
Yeah. Where were you, KJ, when I was like 19, 18, trying to pursue a music career? Like, I could have used this talk, KJ. Where were you? Where was the serendipity at that time? No, we like to be super vulnerable. So I'll have a vulnerable moment. For me, I grew up in church, grew up singing. I'm professionally trained as a singer. And when I was pursuing a singing career, church voices and people who sing in church sing what they got a lot going on. There's a lot of runs, there's a lot of riffs, there's a lot of vibrato. And sometimes my voice just didn't do that. And even though I wasn't pursuing to sing gospel music, one, I was like a Black chick wanting to sing rock music. So that already put me in a really strange space at the time. This is years and years ago. And then whenever, the people that would be working on my music, my producers, the people involved, they were typically of that church crowd. And I remember feeling like I was not good enough to really pursue singing because I couldn't run and riff like Karen Clark or Beyonce or, some of those things. And I have my own sound. I have my own thing. I would get great response from maybe people I didn't know at shows, but it was like that inner circle that of those people that you really care what they think. And I know we all like to walk around like, oh, I don't care what nobody thinks, fuck everybody's opinion, but it's just not that simple, especially when it's people that you may hold in a high regard or you respect their expertise. And for me, I definitely think that was a major point in kind of derailing me and kind of taking me off that path because I just couldn't recover sometimes from those feelings of inadequacy or feeling like I wasn't good enough because the people that I wanted to like me didn't.
We see each other. And I was in the choir and I did not have a voice. There were so many people in our choir that I just was like, oh my God, I don't do it like that.
Yeah.
I don't do it like that. So maybe I'll never sing a solo here in church.
Yeah.
And, and maybe I'm not, good enough. And so it just made me really hone and try to cultivate my own style. But I get exactly what you're saying. And then the time that I did sing in church, I remember someone said it don't take all that. And I was like, oh. It just kind of hit me like, okay, fair.
Well, dang. That hurt me. And I don't even sing.
Yeah, maybe. I've definitely gotten comments like that. I had someone say that I was yelling, and I thought I was singing a really good high note. I thought I was doing my thing. And it is just, I wish sometimes, especially people close to you, sometimes people think because they're close to you, it gives them agency to keep it so real that they have no tact or no compassion in their words, not realizing how powerful their words are and how destructive they can be, even in the light of, constructive criticism or saying it out of love or trying to help. It's like sometimes you're the one person in someone's life that has enough power to make or break them. And unfortunately, we're taught to give our power away so much that people have that power. They shouldn't, but they do. And the reality is that our loved ones oftentimes are not aware, and we move in this unaware state for so long that they just say things to you, not realizing that, damn, that was the comment. Damn it, that's it. I'm done. I'm gonna hang it up. And they don't even realize it.
It's funny that you say that because I find that when people have been, just aggressive in their comments, instead of really thinking like maybe I could have said it a different way, they would automatically just say I was sensitive.
Or they double down and you're like,
right. Like it was like, I said, this is me. I'm always going to say it the way I say it. I'm going to always be real. And you're just sensitive. Until I got to the point where I said, now you're saying sensitive like it's a negative thing, but sensitivity made me the writer, the coach, the director, the friend.
It's a superpower.
I am. So I had to take my power back from people trying to use it as this negative, trait or characteristic. And so then I was like, am I sensitive or you just being an asshole? I mean, which is, I'm like, well, let's chew on that for a minute. I mean, you all got to be something, you know, then maybe you're just being a jerk. But it took me a minute to get to that where I was you're just not being nice. You're unkind. And I'm not going to let you sit in that, for the sake of this is who I am. And not, but you can tell me all about myself, you should think about you too.
Yeah. You just may be an unkind asshole, and that's totally fine because that is who you are. You just have let me know that that's who you are, and that's okay. So then I'm going to take what you say with a grain of salt.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm going to challenge you to rise to the occasion to be a kinder person.
Yes.
I'm going to challenge you, and it's funny. I had to do that in high school because I have always been the type where I make a decision that makes the most sense for me. Like it is my personality trait. I was in high school and I decided I'm bored with this. I'm going to go ahead and go to college. So I Googled, how can I start college in high school? Because I was bored. I decided I was done.
You were ahead of your time.
I still had to go, but I was like, how can I shorten this day? Right. So I went and I took the test so that I could dual enroll. I think I paid my dad or paid somebody to take me out there so I could take the test because it was in Bradenton and I was in Sarasota. And so I went and I took the test and they were like, yeah, you're on college level. And I was like, I know. I told y'all I was bored.
It ain't new to me.
I'm bored. I'm
not new to this. I'm true to this. Okay. I'm trying to tell y'all.
I am bored. So I signed up for the classes and I came back and I told one of the teachers, I'm like, okay, so I'm only going to be here for half the day because I still legally had to attend. So I was like, well, I'm only going to be here for half the day. And the other half of the day, I have enrolled in Manatee Community College. So that's where I'm going to go for the other half of the day. And I'm going to be taking these classes. He was so angry. He was like, who do you think you are that you can just make a decision like this? You don't know what you need to know just yet. You are a child. And that's why you're not going to amount to much because you think you know it all and you won't even listen to nobody. Read me for filth. Because I decided I wanted a higher education a little sooner than the other people who were going to college. And I had made a decision that day. And at first I did it out of spite. And then I realized that too was my superpower in that I learned very, very quickly. If it's something I decide I'm going to do, okay, cool. That's what I'm going to do. I taught myself to build websites. I taught myself to design. Like I taught myself a lot because in my mind, I'm like, no, whatever I decide I'm going to do, that's what I'm going to do. And that's just what it is.
Yeah. Right? And it starts there. It starts in those like adolescent moments, even as children, where women are kind of taught to kind of pigeonhole themselves and kind of stay in their place and stay in this box. And oftentimes as adults, we feel pigeonholed into lives and careers that no longer bring us joy or fulfillment. And then we end up in the space one day, you wake up one day like, okay, who am I? What am I doing? Someone said I could only be a mom. I could only be a wife. I could only be this thing. Or someone said, oh, I can only be a kick-ass lawyer. I can't do anything else. And for you, KJ, you kind of said, fuck all that. You went from a professional in pharmaceuticals to a Grammy Award-winning artist development and performance expert. It's like, how did you, like, even with you talking about Alechia, like you just made that decision. KJ, how did you kind of decide to make that pivot? Because that is a hell of a pivot into doing something completely opposite. And we talk about it a lot on the podcast, how COVID was like, it forced so many of us to pivot and to try different things and to hone different skills that we would have never thought could come in handy. So what was your process and journey like with that kind of an adjustment in your life?
I went to FAMU, shout out to all my rappers.
Okay. Okay.
And then interned at Pfizer, and then ended up working there in executive compensation by day. But it was like, it was a baby fire at the time. It was like everybody else was, even in school, like I'm a Delta, and I would sing for all of our events. And so shout out to Delta. And then, and so it was like, we need a singer. I was like, well, let me get you one. They were like, nope, we need you. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was like, still everybody else believed, right? And I felt like God was just sending people to, just to kind of give me this permission when I wasn't sure, because I come from a very pragmatic, family. It's like in Chicago, you go to grammar school, you go to high school, you go to college, you get your degree. So I wasn't exposed to kind of these non-traditional, unconventional routes. And so when I got there, I was like, okay, well, at least, I got my 9 to 5. Like it was all about your day job. I was like, I got my 9 to 5. I will pursue music, at night. So I was going to open mics. I was in studio with Carl Thomas. I was on, he was pushing me on stage, and then I'd be in, like wherever. It was like I was either watching shows or open mics, and after 5, and then the next day back at work, and then napping in the bathroom. And so it was like this continuum. And I remember like getting the call for my very first professional gig. Dave Nelson, may he rest in peace, was my manager. And he called me and said, I want you to go meet Tony Dofat, who was a producer, excuse me, in the studio. And I was like, okay, but I'm in Brooklyn at this time, and it's like 11 at night. And I was just like, okay. And that's when I realized that part of this journey only requires you to show up. Like, to get there, like showing up is true. More people can see your talent. You got to show up. Yeah. And so I remember going to the studio, and it was Heavy D. Tony Dofat was executive producing this album for Heavy D, and I sang this song, and it wasn't supposed to be the single, but it ended up being the single. And I was like, there might be something here, So fast forward, I end up on tour with Puff, singing background, because I met Kelly Price through a friend of mine named Eric Payton, who was like, just stop by the studio. I was at Macy's. The studio was on 50 something. Macy's is on 34th something. 34. And I was like, ain't nobody trying to go up there at 9 o'clock. It's like, it's Friday. My day is over. I got bags. I showed up, connected with Kelly Price. A week later, she asked me to go on the Puff tour. Right. So it was like, still, God was like placing people to say, there's something here, the still baby fire that existed. And, fast forward, I ended up singing background for Puff and Carl Thomas and Britney Spears and Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake, and then working for Clive Davis, because I was like, okay, this is great. But, sometimes you can stay in a space longer than God intended, because it's comfortable. Right? Because this. It's like, you've done the work. Let me just hold on to this. But sometimes you can hold on for too long. And oftentimes the alternative doesn't always look good, right? So it's like, if you're traveling the world doing what you love to do, the offer of sitting behind a desk and working for someone is not the most appealing one. But it was, how do I reset in the moment where I've gained all I can as a background singer? Now I know that I need to reposition myself, and I want to take the same energy I poured into other people and now pour into myself as a solo artist, which means that I may have to now come back to the student, the learning position. Right. So it's like, I didn't really I started working as a nighttime receptionist for J Records. And then soon after, they said, can you work for Clive? And I was like, I like my life. I'm good. I like my time. But I realized what I would get from him would be invaluable. So again, I never told him that I sang. I just took meetings with all of the A&Rs that were, in the office, just because I wanted them to hear my music. I wanted to get information. I collected information from Clive. I just remained the student. And as much as I knew that I was meant for something greater, I tried to honor the space that I was in. I was like, God, if you got me here, there must be something I'm supposed to
It's a
learn,
reason.
right?
Yeah.
Because the internal loss that you're feeling of like, I should be on stage, not here, coupled with or combined with the loss of not at least gaining something from where you are is not something I wanted. That's a double loss. I just hate losing. I'd taken double losses, and so I was like, at least if I'm here, even though I don't think I should be at the moment, I'm going to learn from this. So then fast forward, when Ty did hear that I sang, I ended up on tour. It was because I was going back on tour with Janet Jackson to do a promo tour. And so then it was like, okay, that was great. And then you realize that your career is predicated on the success or the decision of someone else, either saying they're going to go on tour, they're not going to go on tour. The fate of somebody else's career is where my life rests. And that wasn't a great feeling all the time. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take this chance again. I'm going to jump ship. So I went to work for AMC Networks. I was working for Sundance Channel, but in this space, I got to kind of create this duality of singer and television enthusiasts. They would use my voice on shows. I performed at the Sundance Film Festival. So I just developed such a great relationship from, being in this space. Fast forward, I said, okay, I need to go to LA. And, so I was always making tiny pivots. Yeah. And along the way, I also started seeing kind of this flame get a little bit more, intense. And so then it was like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing this, but even at J Records, a woman by the name of Carolyn said, we love your energy. We love your stage presence. We love how you are on in your performances. Can you take this and pour into other people? Right. So I didn't really know at the time. And I think I'm just having my own aha moment that the time spent at J Records was also to start building this other kind of of performance coaching, because they said, because it was like, okay, your music is cool, but we really like your performance.
Yeah.
And so my first artists, which were all J Records artists, is what started kind of opening this door to me actually seeing myself in a different realm. Because sometimes we box ourselves, we sun ourselves of like, I'm good at this. I've been working on this for years. I'm not going to try anything different. Everything I put, all the work and the sweat has gone for this. And it's like, what if God said that you can do this and this? Like you were more than just this, And so I had to figure out if I was doing the performance coaching in lieu of something not working, or was I doing it as a progression, So once I declared it was a natural progression, it didn't hit me as hard when people like, did you give up on music? Or, those who teach can't do, it was like all those things that I was hearing. And I was like, I can do. Actually, I did it. And I surpassed what I thought I was going to do. So I have reclaimed what victory is for me. I'm going to redefine it, because I didn't even know that I would be here. So I've already been victorious as an artist.
Say that.
Hello.
It'll start hitting, a little differently. And so, I was making these tiny pivots and growing into this other thing and realizing that this other thing needed the first thing for this to be a good thing. Ooh, I can't even repeat it.
You should repeat that. Take notes, sis. Repeat that.
I can't. I just fell into it. Let me see. This other thing needed the first thing, which was the artist in me, to make this new thing a good thing.
Ooh. I feel like we need like a
tambourine.
Did you say tambourine?
Yes, I grew up in the church.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, we need that shout music.
Okay, with the organ. You need the tambourine, the organ, and some good shouting shoes on. That was good.
But there were two people that when I was kind of coming up that intermittently would say, you got something, in addition to my friends, shout out to all my friends. I know they'd be like, what about us? All my friends came to all my open mics, all my New York crew, my FAMU BFFs, my cutie, Camp Cutie crew. But there were moments that I had where, it was like, I may have kind of felt like, okay, maybe this isn't it. And then God would send people. And first he sent Frank Gatson. So Frank is creative director for, he started with Destiny's Child and Beyonce and Kelly Rowland and Tyrese and he and Brandy. And he had always had that eye. And he was like, your level of presence, you've got something. And then I was singing background for Puff. We were doing like an Arista anniversary out, and it might have been Palm Springs. And we were rehearsing, and Ben Vereen sent his daughter over to say that I had some magic. So the fact that you said Ben Vereen, I said, did you say Ben Vereen? Those are the two people that, that in addition to everybody else that God sent that, at the moment were, the performance gurus, of their careers. And that really cited, I see you, sis. That's how I interpret it. I see you. Keep going.
Man. Oh
And
my God. You just said so many things to unpack. Like, I just like, that was so, there's just so.
I was trying to like bring it all together. Listen, and it's so crazy too that we're having this conversation, because literally that transition where you have to go back and sit down and become a student again. Mm-hmm. This is, I think, why our meetings have been so serendipitous, because literally just this morning, I was driving back at 3 a.m. To take care of some things with my family. And I was on the phone with my sister, and she was just saying how, she'd been talking to her therapist, and her therapist said that we keep choosing the harder path, and I should just, he wasn't saying it, but basically saying like, I should just go and get a job and do, a job while also now building this next business, because I'm choosing a harder path, and my choices that I'm making are just making my life so much harder. And if I want to stop suffering, I should just make a choice that's easier. Now, anyone who knows me knows I don't really do well with people telling me to make decisions that go against what my gut is telling me. Amen. But on the flip side, I was also like, well, maybe I should just sit down and try and do, all four. And the fact that you were just saying that, okay, you can't take a double L. Like, what does it look like? Okay, I've already taken an L in terms of leaving what was comfortable and what was, what was kind of easy in terms of like my marketing and branding firm, because I just shut it down because I know I was supposed to have been finished it, right? And now transitioning to becoming a transformation coach and what that means, and you have to build it up and all the things. Literally with what you were saying, I was like, okay, so no, you're not supposed to go and get this job that the nice young gentleman who is, just hoping he means well, but that's not what you're supposed to do. The gyms, I see you, sis, the I got you, those keep coming. And with what you're saying, it's so crazy, the level of affirmation. I literally, like you, Danielle, I'm getting chills, because I'm just like, okay, so you are going to keep knocking me upside the head, but you're also going to give me some affirmation that, hey, this is the right path.
Yeah.
This is where you're supposed to go, and this is where you're supposed to be. And I love that, because it helps me to stay grounded. But I want to know, how do you stay grounded and true to yourself? Because you have worked with literally the GOATs, from Puffy to Janet Jackson to Britney Spears. You mentioned any of these names anywhere around the globe, and folks are Clive David. You mentioned those folks, and people are like, who are you, what you do, how you like, and that whole adoration can change folks. It can change folks. So how do you stay grounded? Because every single interaction that I've had with you personally, or even folks who we know together, is always the same constant thing. It's nothing but love. Like, you can feel the level of love and care and kindness, and you don't always get that. So like, how do you stay grounded and true to who you are in spite of the accolades and the things that you've done?
The Lord, and knowing that this is, it's bigger than me. And then I think because I've been in a business where I've seen kind of the opposite of grounded, where I've seen, I don't want to be that, so there are times I'll check myself very quickly. because I'm like, the whole point of these encounters and these experiences are not for me to, gloat. It's really to push the kingdom forward. And so I have to keep myself at a certain, because it's like, if you believe that you're a steward, then you have to represent in a good way, and show other people that, hey, yeah, these blessings have come, but I'm no different than you. If he can do it for me, he'll do it for you, And so it is part of just kind of my being to know that it's all so much bigger, and that I am, when God does kind of send me these amazing opportunities, it's not necessarily for me, so I'm always going into the space, and I'm praying before I walk into the space, like, let my words have impact, that people leave differently than how they came in. And the prayer often also is like, if there's something in my spirit of my heart that's not of you, take it away, because then it's a waste. If I show up and I don't, move in a way that makes people feel like they can access the best parts of themselves, then I wasn't prepared, and I didn't show up the way I wanted to. So I'm just constantly making sure that I can, show up that way and make people feel like that they don't have to be inferior, because all the things that, potentially people can feel, I felt, and so I just want to make sure that I give people like the permission and show them that, that their individual gifts are necessary. And I can't do that if I'm not kind, if I'm not nice. You can't be an unkind messenger. That is just never gonna work. You can't.
That's that asshole we was talking about earlier. You just
said it twice. I was trying to say it twice.
It's okay. I said it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know what I hear you saying, KJ, is it seems like there's a lot of surrendering that comes in your journey. It seems like you've just been able to surrender to your higher power. And sometimes when we're kind of in this journey, we try to kind of like manifesting, right? It's really big, and everyone's manifesting their lives and doing all these things. And sometimes, and I'm not saying you have to be a religious person. I'm not saying that you have to believe in a specific God, but I do think that it is really important to anchor yourself in something greater than yourself. And you kind of refer to that a lot. And it's interesting to hear that, because a lot of times when people are in the process of manifesting, we think it's this, like, we forget sometimes to attach it to some kind of a source, because there's only so far you can take yourself. And the further you go is the more you're just like, I need something else. I need some reinforcement. And whatever that thing is for you, it's just important to find it. That was just like when you're talking, it's just like, wow, there's so much surrendering and having to pay attention to signs along the way and mini pivots. Like, you don't really hear people say that. It just seems like everyone just has everything figured out and they manifested it and whatever. And and then I'm just, and I'm just like, wow, no, this is like, there's so much, there's such a different air about when you say things, and you're talking about the importance of tuning into yourself, but also connecting to a source that's greater than you, to kind of keep that gas in your tank and to kind of keep you moving and to give you those affirmations like Alechia just got, and just kind of forget. Sometimes I think we are so self-made, right, these days, that we forget to kind of honor the things that maybe we can't see, and honor those people that come into our lives and guide us and open doors and lend a hand and pull us up and do all the things. It's like, there's no way that anybody who's great, anybody who's accomplished or successful in whatever light, has done any of it by themselves, whether it's they want to give the credit to their higher power or to the people that have helped them. And the last thing for me is just being able to kind of have a radio signal to tune into the people that can say things that lift you up and say the things that can change your life. Because we're so used to kind of tuning into the people that have the bad things to say that we try to block it all out at one point. Because I've been there, I was like, fuck everybody, what they got to say. I don't want to hear none of it.
Yeah. Yep.
And then sometimes you're tuning out the good vibes and the good waves that can come in. So I also like that you acknowledge the people that helped you along the way and help kind of point you in that direction. So that's why I think the overall message is to just be so in tune with yourself that you can kind of distinguish the different frequencies and what's kind of coming in and out of your life.
Yeah. Breathe. And it's quiet time. It's not who I am.
Yes.
And I remember, so, I also have a spiritual coach. Shout out to Coach Samuel. And so he'll say, have you spent time with yourself? I was like, yeah, I sat here for like 30 minutes. And he was like, no.
That's not it.
I didn't go anywhere, like for hours. He was like, and he said, mentally, have you spent time? And so it is it's not my default, right? Like I do have to like practice it so that, that's where you refuel and, definitely easier said than done. But like you were saying, Dani, in terms of seeing what comments or thoughts or opinions, you're either going to say, okay, I can see that, or this has nothing to do with me whatsoever. That's all you know what I mean? So you have to sit and rest in that, and like just the other day, somebody made a comment about me and, I was like, I said, I can see where you're coming from. I was like, but I think it's unfair. I think it's an unfair comment because, I think that, and I try not to get defensive in it, and I try to see, where they're coming from. But then I also give myself credit too. Like, hey, if you count the other 365 days, that it wasn't that way. You could actually give me a break on the 2 that were.
Yeah.
A little grace, just a little grace sometimes.
A little more grace.
I say that all the time. And what happens is, I forget that because extending grace is what I have learned to do, that everybody else doesn't see it that way. That's not their default.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I have to then go and recalibrate and, and make sure that I'm not pouting, because I do it this way and they don't do it that way. And then I had to say, hey, well, if that's what you thought, then maybe you should have just checked on me. If this is out of character, hey, everything okay?
Right.
Before you formulated this opinion and put that word on it, and so it's like, once I got to the end of that, then because my body, like internally, when there's friction, emotional friction, or, someone says something that hits me, like I cannot shake it until I process, from top to bottom. How did I get here? Why are they saying that? Is there truth in that? Could they have done it a different way? Are you going to wrap your arms and hug the thing and be, and feel sorry for yourself for the whole week? Or are you going to take note and then just make sure that you don't, in your desire to want to help and to want to be a light and want to provide energy, sometimes you may just have to say no. So they don't reach the conclusion that they reached, So it's like, and I think that was one of the reasons I wrote the book, because it was like, I don't want people to reinvent the wheel or to think I just landed somewhere without knowing that it was a process, so I wanted to just expose that process, my personal process of getting there,
And I really like that too, because speaking of the book, so it really is like, so it's a performance guide, and the goal is to like, help you occupy your space in every room, so you walk in there like God sent you, and on every stage too. But if you had to pick like one, because you said you of course you show people like what your process was, but if you had to pick one of those 8 steps, like what would you say was the most important step?
First, it would be the chapter on about Oprah and my time and music and all of that. And it's called From Shame to Significance. And I talk about how, I wrote a song based on a very kind of like unpleasant experience in relationship, and how that song kind of became like the the bane of my existence. Every time I would sing it, it was just like people would be like, "Oh my God, I'm so connected," but it would transport me back to a very negative place. And so I dismissed the song. So when I got a call about like seeing if I had any music to contribute to a project, I was like, I ain't got nothing. And it really took, a girlfriend of mine to say, yeah, but she wrote an entire album. And I'm like, yeah, but that's over. Like, I'm in a new place. I've evolved. They were like, we ain't got time for your evolution. And I was just like, okay, well, so then I just ended up sending the music over, the song that had just kind of been a healing agent, but I didn't want it to follow me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so it ended up being the song that they put in Queen Sugar. And so the lesson for me in that was to not dismiss, our work based on time, based on the emotional connection, based on what other people's thoughts were, and to go back and really collect your power, take your power back from things that you have just really abandoned. And so it was like, complete the things you've abandoned. It give power back to the creative works that you've done, and that you either didn't think you were good enough, or you thought that there needed to be more evolution for for it to be received, right? And so your job is truly just to complete the task. Your job is not to figure out how or who or when it will be received or perceived, but your job is to complete the task. So that was the biggest lesson. And then the other one was the power of the push through, which was chapter 8, which at one point there were only 7 chapters, but I was working with Lil Nas, and at one point it was like I had the greatest highs and lows all existing within one weekend, So it was like I leave my house to go to Quincy Jones's house to just observe and be a part of the celebration as Quincy gives Lil Nas a diamond plaque for Old Town Road. And so then from there we hop in a Sprinter, we go to Palm Springs to do his very first Doritos commercial for the Super Bowl. And, and it's like all these wins, like, yes. And then all of a sudden, while we're on set, I get a call that my house was robbed. And, they send me pictures, and I'm like, my knees are buckling, I'm crying. But at the same time, I'm seeing Lil Nas walk, being escorted back to set. And so it was like, again, I can't lose twice. I can't have lost all my belongings and then get to set and not be present and lose in being the coach that he needs me to be the best and give his most optimal performance in this moment. And so it just kind of taught me, like, like you were saying earlier, Alicia, like, you are joyful, but it's not because you are fulfilled. That means that you have accessed a level of power that allows you to push through in the joy until the rest of your life catches up.
Yeah. Girl, you got to make me cry. And I told myself I wasn't going to mess up my makeup today. Okay?
I was just about to say, like, I'm in Miami. It's like 75 degrees. I have long sleeves on, and I literally have chills all over my body. Like, this is crazy, because sometimes, when you feel like, I know that feeling of feeling like, damn, I just want to throw this. I don't want to do this right now. I don't want to sit in this. Yep. And when you keep saying, like, I'm not going to lose twice, it's like, you got to find your win. And it's so hard sometimes when you feel like everything is crumbling. You sometimes just want to let it all crumble. You're just like, I'm just going to let it happen, because that feels so good.
Yes.
To just lay in it. Yeah, just to let it fall apart. And when you're like saying, I'm going to take that with me forever, like, don't literally twice. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
finding your win. I'm always like, create the winning habit, and it is, and reward yourself, like, for the win. And you dictate what the freaking win is. You know what I mean? The win could be that, for me, there was a win where I survived on set. It was like, even though I know, they didn't want me there, but I still was like, not today. serve on for always. And so I was like, afterwards, I rewarded myself and I took myself for some crab legs. I said, you did good today, Kiana.
Yeah.
Yes.
Same.
I do that all the time. It'll be like, I don't care what it is. Like, I love to just go sit and eat by myself. And if I just feel accomplished today, I'm going to go. And it could have been like, you know what, especially during I'm obviously still in my stage of postpartum dealing with a new child. And there would just be moments that I just pat myself on the back for changing out of my pajamas. I was like, you know what? I put on some new clothes today and that is a win. Okay.
Endorse your wins. You know, endorse it, wear it. Like
that is so powerful. I will never forget that. I will never forget that. Find your win. Like don't lose twice. And in those moments where you really need to push through, it's like, it's all about, and going back to like full circle, just the beginning of the conversation where you were talking about how you were talking about a quote from Diana Ross, and really it boils down to rewiring your brain. And constantly, and everything that's happening is wiring your brain to do something. Everything you watch, everything you listen to, everything you eat, everything is, your brain's constantly like trying to put things together for you. And we don't realize just how sensitive and how our brain is just sponge. Like we always think there's only children are sponges, but you're still a sponge at 80. Like you're still taking everything in. And that just reminds me sometimes, like when I have those negative thoughts, it's like, no, let me rewire that. Let me change that circuit so that I can get a different outcome, because we don't realize that every single thing that we do came from the wiring from moments, years before. And you're like, wow, why is this playing out like this? Why did I do this? Why did I react like this? I thought I was past this. And it was like, no, you didn't do enough work to rewire those circuits in your brain so that your body can respond differently. And that's what you do. It's clearly what you do is like, you even like when you're talking about people confusing arrogance with confidence, you don't even take that. You're just like, oh no, I'll give it to God because that's not for me. That's not for me to take in and try to figure other people out. And we spend so much energy trying to understand other people and not enough energy trying to figure ourselves out so that we can realize that it's just not that personal. I think Oprah is where I got that from, where she had like a Super Soul Sunday and she said that she realized like someone was being nasty to her. And she realized that it had nothing to do with her. Like she was just looking at them and she could like tell they weren't even there inside themselves. You're not even home. Like I can't have you throw my day off. I can't have you make me feel some kind of way about me when you are all fucked up. Like you have to figure that out. And she says, like, don't take it personal. Like any attack on you has nothing to do with you. You may be receiving it, but it's not because of you. And that changed my life as well. It was just like, yeah, like people will be a certain way. And I'm just like, oh my God, poor thing.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah. And we should take it a step further so that we don't find ourselves like spending more time in it than necessary.
Yes.
We should say, how presumptuous of us to think that was about me.
Oh, I like that. How presumptuous.
How presumptuous. I won't do that. How presumptuous of me.
Yeah.
That will recalibrate you quick.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Recalibrations. You know what?
It's the word.
It's the word. No, I love that. How presumptuous of me to even think, why? You know, that's so funny. And it really has changed me to have more compassion for people who are trying to attack or being negative or being just flat out mean. Our first, one of our episodes this season is called the Mean Girl Movement. And we talk a lot about how a lot of these women empowerment conferences and things are really just mean girl movements in disguise. And it's like we talk about, and we talk about how
to the attendees,
everybody just mean as hell. And we're just like, how important is it to have compassion, you know, in those moments when people are being mean, and to just kind of understand that. Imagine if somebody is saying something mean to you, imagine what they say to themselves inside. Imagine their self-talk in their inner voice. Imagine how fucked up it is if they can say something like that out loud to somebody else. And it has helped me to rewire, because how you give it to the Lord, KJ, I couldn't do that for a long time. I had to give it to you myself. Okay. Like, let me respond and get you all the way together.
I didn't tell you how long it took to give it to them.
The Lord sometimes took too long. Okay, the Lord is too patient and kind. Sometimes I need to get you together today, right now, here in this moment, honey.
Well, yes, I read something the other day that said, if you, this is, I'm paraphrasing, but if you treat them the way they treat you, you become them. It's something like okay. Like move through them so you don't become them. And that triggers, because my first reaction is like, well, let me tell you, and then I was like, but then I'll be just like them. Then nobody wins.
Nobody wins.
Then you lose twice.
Yeah. That's gonna probably be the name of, if God puts it on my heart to do another book. Like, don't lose twice.
I'll never forget it.
I had to take my spectacles off and put them back on for clarity purposes. Listen.
Oh man, this is great.
This was so good. It literally, it's like you're, one of my favorite scriptures, and Dani, don't say anything, but one of my favorite scriptures is creating me a clean heart and renew a right spirit within me. So when I feel like I'm about to become my lower self, and her name is Lola, that bitch is awful. When I'm about to become Lola, I repeat that scripture to myself, but I like now because that's a little long one, but I like the quickness with the, how presumptuous of me that was about me.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the follow-up of, I'm not going to become you. I'm not going to do that. It's just, I'm not going to become you. There's this saying that says, when seeking revenge, dig 2 graves. There's a lot of old sayings around, like, if somebody's watching 2 people argue from a distance, they don't know who the idiot is.
Nope.
Like, all those things that sometimes we take on from other people in an effort to protect and defend ourselves, honestly just ends up destroying. Poison destroys the vessel it's stored in more than the vessel that it's poured on. So I just always keep those things in mind, because like I said, it took me a long time to learn to give it to the Lord. And sometimes my lower self, Elsa, is an icy bitch. And she will come out. Her name is Elsa because she's icy. And I've had to learn that. And it's and just like you've said, it's a constant. Like, you choose every day. You choose every day to be confident. You choose every day to be kind. You choose every day to be understanding. You choose everything is a choice. And I think what happens a lot sometimes is we feel like, because I made all these other choices for so long, that has to be my default. And I can't now just decide to do something different. It's like, oh, that's just how I am. Like, those people, I'm just like that. That's just how I am. I just keep it real. And you're just like, yeah, but you can make a decision to do something else in this moment that changes your trajectory of your entire life.
Yeah.
And it's about that moment. And I had to learn that, where it's just like, you know what? I don't have to keep doing this because I've always done it. I can wake up today and be like, no, I'm going to do something different and see what happens. And let me just roll the dice and see what's up.
And most of the people that are trying to, use that as their excuse to be who we say they are, cannot take it if you were real.
Ooh. That part. See, that's the part right there that I don't understand.
They can't receive it. And then that's where your grace has to come in. Nah, Lord, if I was going to get his back,
it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same.
He's going to be mad at me. Then you got to correct me later, because I didn't broke one of the souls of your children.
Yeah.
I'm going to need you to work with your child.
There. But if I gave you that what you give me, you would not
take it. Yeah. And because I know I can take it, I would take it and keep moving and give you that grace, because you're going to crumble with something that I can just roll off my back. I've definitely had to learn that with great power comes great responsibility. And these mouths and these hands, sometimes you got to reel them in, and you have to realize that with the power that you hold, especially when you're a light, and you move and impact people in a way that they don't even realize. When you walk in and you shift the room and they're like, oh, who is this? What's happening? Yeah. That same energy and power can definitely be destructive. And I'm sure, KJ, working in the entertainment industry, you've seen so many people kind of self-destruct or destroy because they are so powerful. They have this influence and this energy that they just don't really know how to hone or control. And it ends up being destructive. So as someone that I feel like a light, and I feel like someone who has a lot of energy, you do have to learn to kind of direct it and channel it appropriately, or it becomes like, I always notice that if you ever mess with if you know any comedians, when they're really, really funny, that same quickness and wit gets real nasty if they let it, and it's the same way when you're a powerful person. It's so important to kind of find that grace and compassion for others so that you use your powers for good and not evil.
Yeah. Amen.
Listen, I'm gonna have to go listen to this one again before it gets out to the people. Because it was so good.
This is the one right here. Every time I think we have like the best episode, another episode comes, I'm like, well, damn, what this was good too. Man.
Oh,
okay, wrap it up, Alechia, because I feel like we're gonna be here. I could be here with KJ all day, getting all the gems and all the things. But we need to let KJ get back to her fabulous life.
Exactly. So, KJ, where can we find you? Stay connected, buy the book. Where can we do all the things?
Okay. The book is
pull it closer.
Okay.
There we go.
The Rose Effect.
Yes.
It is available on Amazon, at Barnes and Nobles. We also have a audio book, so that's on Audible. And then you can.
I know it's on Audible. Ooh,
do you narrate it? Do you narrate it with this? Are you the narrator? Okay, good.
I'm gonna go get it today.
Yes.
I like Audible.
IG is KJ Rose Effect. So it's Twitter, and Facebook, LinkedIn is Kiana KJ Rose Henson.
Oh, this was so good. Oh my goodness. Listen.
Thank you guys for having me.
No, thank you for coming. Like, I already know. And I do say it often, but just because honestly, the way we are curating these guests, if nobody else changed, I'm changing. Just for one.
I was just telling somebody that at dinner, I was just like, I think that I selfishly started a podcast to help myself heal. I'm not sure.
Oh, it's so good. So good. I wanted to say this one thing when we were talking, because sometimes I'm sure we're like, Lord, why you let them get away with that? But because when he convicts you, he's convicting you based on what he knows
Yeah.
Your relationship with him, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you can't clap back the way somebody, because he's just like, hey. He was like, they ain't there yet, but you there.
You're there.
So I have to hold you accountable to you.
And I'll be like, oh.
So they can just say what they want, and I got up here be nice. Okay.
All right. And then you know what? You feel punked, or you feel like you just got or tried. And I hate that feeling. And you just be driving home like, Lord, like I should have.
And then I'll be like, Lord, I didn't win today. I took it. I said, I know you were watching. I could not help myself. But just one time. This one time, please let me have this one time. I'll pray about this one. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, he convicts and he chastens based on where he knows we are.
Yeah,
and that's in the quiet moments that we've spent with him. He was like, you're better than that. I've developed you beyond this working in terms of the circumstance. I mean, the surface and responding in the world. Like I put you out here as one of my vessels. You can't be out there acting crazy.
Yeah. And I do. And to last thing on that, I like, there's this, you don't want to think you're above anybody or beneath anybody. But I do think when it comes to kind of responding, there do need to be some things that you are above, not people that you're above, but things and responses and engagements that you're above. Because sometimes, I'm not better than that. It's like, no, I'm better at this than you are. Like, I am better at not responding and cussing you out and hurting your feelings. So I'm going to use that skill that I've developed and honed to not make you feel like shit.
Because you see that as power. Yeah. And one day you'll see that was the power.
Yes, that was that. Yep. And I've had to, again, all things that you have to learn is just like, no, I'm not better than you, but I'm better than this. And I'm better than this interaction. And I'm better than this nastiness that's happening. And then I now know because I'm better than that, I will remove myself and let you go on and have a nice day.
And thank you for making that distinction, because yes, I'm talking about people, but I am not. I am not talking about not being above this or being up. Yes, amen.
Because if I respond and I crush you, then the Lord is going to require your blood on my hands.
Yes. I don't have to learn the lesson again. And I don't like repeating the lesson. I'm trying to graduate, trying to move on.
I don't want to go to summer school. I just want to learn it and keep going.
That's what I think about all the time now. Whenever something's happening, I'm like, okay, what's the lesson? How do I pass it? What are you trying to teach me? Because them repeating the lessons, because then when you got to do it again, it's even harder.
Because you didn't learn it in the beta. So, the beta, it's the light version, LITE. It's the light version. But if you got to learn it in the full-fledged OE live version, man, that's everything. That's all the bells and whistles. And
stop and think sometimes, what am I supposed to learn? What part of me needs healing? What part of me needs to grow? What part of me needs to be shedded and destroyed so that I can become, because this is all this life thing. When people are like, oh, what's the purpose of life? It's to become the best version of yourself, whatever that means. And I've had to learn to just be like, okay, wait a minute. What is this? This sucks. I feel like I'm being tested, God. What are we doing?
Let me hurry up and learn this so we can move on.
Yes.
Now listen, this, like I said, this conversation, just blessed me so much.
Same.
Please, y'all, stay connected to us. TriggeredAFpodcast.com. Stay connected with me at Alechia Reese on every platform imaginable. Dani, where can we stay connected with you?
I am Dani Foster Coaching on Instagram, DaniFosterCoaching.com. Of course, our Instagram for Triggered is TriggeredAFPC on Instagram, and same, I think on Facebook is
everywhere.
Triggered AF Podcast. Yeah, it's TriggeredAFPC. So stay connected. Of course, watch this on YouTube now. We have, since season 2, been doing video as well. So please go to our YouTube and catch up with our episodes so you can see us and see our beautiful guests and get all the feels and energy. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. If your life is a change, I know mine is.
Mine too.
And please share this with your trigger happy fam so that other people can get this good healing. Okay.
Hallelujah.
Thank you guys for having me. I am stretched as well. I mean, I've said things that I've not, shared and found myself, with perspective that you guys triggered,
thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, this was definitely a sharing moment. So thank you guys so much. Join us next time on another episode of Triggered AF, the podcast.
Bye, guys.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Triggered AF. Remember, don't be consumed by your triggers. Confront it and then work to release it. Whether you leave us more triggered than you came or you're feeling like you've been open to a new perspective, our hope is that you've grown. Make sure to share this episode with a friend who's trigger happy and tag us while you're listening. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next week, pull it together, girl.